What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Let's talk boxing. At its purest form, let's go through the history. You see, boxing has lost its luster and what it stood for. You had great fighters in the past. I don't want to go through some fighters with you at the top of the head. As we go along, these names will come to me, like they always do. We're going to be looking at fighters such as Benny Leonard and Johnny Dundee, the Scotch Wop, Harry Greb, the Pittsburgh Windmill, Jeff Smith and Bill Brennan, Jack Dempsey and Gene Tunney. We'll look at Bob Montgomery and Bo Jack and Ike Williams, Carlos Ortiz and Joe Brown. We're going to look at Johnny Jaddock and Billy Patrol, the Fargo Express. Yet Iron Mike Tyson, Evander Real Deal Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, George Foreman, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, and Floyd Money Mayweather, Roy Jones, Bernard the Executioner Hopkins, Winky Wright. All these names I'm going to bring up during the course of this conversation. And we'll look and remind ourselves how boxing has changed in the course of time. 21-year-old Benny Leonard had knocked out Freddie Welch May 20th, 1917 for the World Lightweight Championship belt. June 26, 1922, he fought welterweight champion Jack Britton, and he hit him with a body shot. And had he not hit him while he was down, Benny Leonard would have become the welterweight champion of the world. It would have been very interesting to see how he would have defeated or lost to the toy bulldog, Mickey Walker, because that's who Jack Britton fought next. Jack Britton was in the ring with Ted Kid Lewis 20 times. And Benny Leonard was in the ring with fighters such as Philadelphia Pound Moore and Johnny Kilbane, as well as Rocky Kansas. Tommy Hawk. July 24th, 1923, he defended his lightweight championship belt over the Philadelphia Southpaw, Lou Tendler. 1932, he was stopped in his sixth round by the babyface assassin, Jimmy McLaurin. You see, 1929, the stock market had crashed, and Benny Leonard lost $500,000 in that stock market. He tried to make a comeback, and he was unsuccessful after the babyface assassin. 1947, he would be collapsed in the ring. He would be dead while refereeing a match at the St. Nicholas Arena. The hell of a fighter was Benny Leonard. Tony Canzoneri, 1935-1936. Now this man fought 6 Hall of Famers, 18 world champions. Fought a Mexican fighter by the name of Battling Shaw. Very good fighter he was. Jimmy McLaurin and Frankie Click. Billy Patrol, who was the Fargo Express. Bud Taylor, his name was Charles Bud Taylor. Kid Chocolate, the Cuban Bong Bong. Johnny Jaddock and Al Singer. Jackie Kid Bird and Benny Vass from Philadelphia. Baby Arizmenzi. Baby Arizmenzi was in the ring with Henry Armstrong 6 different occasions. They split victories. And Baby Arizmenzi would win a featherweight championship, the New York Sack version, in 1932. He would also win the Mexican and the California featherweight championship belt. He would lose to Henry Armstrong. And Benny Leonard and Tony Canzoneri, great fighters. Tony Canzoneri would also be in the ring with Sammy Mandel, Phil McGraw. He would face Sammy Fuller, Charles Bud Taylor, Andre Rotis, and Johnny Dundee. As for Johnny Dundee, whose name was the Scotch Watch. The Scotch Watch. The Scotch Wop. Hell of a fighter he was. He played the ropes. He would take his left foot and he would hook it on the bottom rope. And he would have his butt on the center rope and his neck on the top strand. He would straddle the ropes. He was the best in the business at it. That's what he was known for. And he was a former world featherweight champion, former world junior lightweight champion. He was in the ring with fighters such as Joe Glick and Todd Morgan, Charlie Phil Rosenberg, Al Foreman and Sid Terrace, Sammy Mandel and Powell Morgan, Vincent Pepper Martin and Lou Tendler, Willie Jackson and Charlie White, Eddie Wallace. He was the first to become, along with Joe Welling, a fighter under the Walker Law, 1920. Johnny Dundee, Tony Canzoneri, Benny Leonard, I have number 9, ranked as the greatest fighters of all time. Have them all together ranked number 9. Harry Greb, the Pittsburgh Windmill, who was born June 6, 1894, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, stood 5 foot 8 inches and he weighed 142 to 173 pounds. He was in the ring with lightweight champions such as Battling Levinsky and Jack Dillon, Tommy Loughran and Gene Tunney, Jimmy Slattery and Maxie Rosenblum, Kid Norfolk. Kid Norfolk was the colored lightweight heavyweight champion of all time. was an accidental dumbing that took place with Harry Greb. And Harry Greb would fight 47 more times under that condition. Middleweights that he fought was Johnny Wilson, 1923, took the title away from him. Frank Klaus, Michael Dowd, Tommy Gibbons, Tiger Flowers. He was in the ring with Jeff Smith and Bob Mohar, Billy Misk, and Bill Brennan. Mike Gibbons. Harry Greb was a hell of a fighter. Jack Johnson was a colored heavyweight champion in 1903 when he defeated Denver Ed Martin for the colored heavyweight championship belt. He defeated Tommy Burns in 1908 to become the first black heavyweight champion of all time, defeating him in Sydney, Australia. He was in the ring with Joe Jeanette 10 times, and he faced Battling Johnson. He faced young Peter Jackson, former heavyweight champion, Boilermaker Jim Jeffries, July 4th, 1910. Defeated him in 15 rounds. And unfortunately, there were riots all over the world, and little black boys and men were hung. Little black boys were beaten half to death because white America could not stand to see a black heavyweight run the country. 3 times he fought Black Bill, May 2nd, 1905, July 13th, 1905, and April 16th, 1906. And Jack Johnson would lose his heavyweight championship belt April 5th, 1915, in Cuba, Havana. Faced fireman Jim Flynn twice. Second time, Jim Flynn was disqualified for consistently headbutting Jack Johnson. Joe Jeanette was born August 26, 1879. He stood 5 foot 10 inches. He weighed 185 to 205 pounds. Fought fighters such as Big Bill T and George Cole, Black Bill and Jack Johnson, Sam Langford, George Compartier, Arthur Perkley, and Black Fitzsimmons. They called him Kid Monday. Harry Wills and Battling Jim Johnson. Jeff Clark, they called him the Joplin Ghost. Now, Harry Wills was born May 15, 1889, New Orleans. He was in the ring with Joe Jeanette and Sam Langford. Fought Sam Langford 22 times. Sam McVeigh, Jeff Clark, Denver Ed Martin, and Kid Norfolk. James Tut Jackson and Jeff Thompson. Big Bill Tate and Jack Sharkey. Matter of fact, when he fought Jack Sharkey in 1926, he would lose his colored heavyweight championship belt. We go to Larry Gans and George Godfrey. Sam Langford was born March 4th, 1883, Nova Scotia. Stood 5 foot 8 inches and weighed 139 to 204 pounds. He was in the ring with fighters such as Larry Temple, Jeff Clark, young Peter Jackson and Dixie Kid, Bill Lang and Jack Blackburn, Joe Gans and Harry Wills, Kid Norfolk, Willie Lewis, Ed Gunboat Smith and Sam McVeigh, young Jack Thompson, John Lester Johnson, Tiger Flowers, Big Bill Tate and Stanley Ketchum, Fireman Jim Flynn, and Ed Bearcart Wright, was also in the ring with Harry Greb. It was an underground fight, and it wound up becoming a draw. Sam McVeigh, May 17, 1887, Texas, 5 foot 10 inches. He's in the ring with Sam Langford, Bill Lane, Frank Craig, the Harlem Coffee Cooler, and Jim Barry, Jeff Clark, and Frank Craig, Jack Johnson, Denver Ed Martin, Harry Wills, and Joe Jeanette. When we look at the Black Murderers Row, you include fighters such as Dave Harley. March 2nd, 1881 was when he was born. Pennsylvania and Westchester. Weighed 133 pounds to 140 pounds. He was in the ring with Joe Gans and Jack Blackburn, Sam Bolin, Belford Langford, Joe Walcott, Sam Langford, George Cole and Dixie Kid, Ruff Turner and George Gunther, Jeff Clark, Joplin Ghost. As for Jeff Clark, Joplin Ghost, he was born 1886, Marsville, New Jersey. Stood 5 foot 10 inches and weighed 165 to 195 pounds. He was in the ring with Sam McVeigh and Kid Norfolk, Dixie Kid and Peter Maher, Joe Jeanette and Battling Levinsky, Harry Wills and Sam Langford. Also, you can include Charlie Burley, who was born September 6, 1917. He was 5 foot 9. He weighed 145 to 162 pounds. I'm remembering this in my head, so I'm just going through it at the top of the head. Aaron Tiger Wade and Oakland Billy Smith. He was in the ring with Lloyd Marshall and Dave Clark, Joe Carter and Charlie Banks, Archie Moore, Coco Kid, Holman Williams, and Ezra Charles, Lloyd Marshall was born June 4th, 1914, Madison Square Garden. Stood 5 foot 10 inches. And he was an amateur of 212 fights. He lost 17. Professional, 64 fights that he won, 24 losses and 32 knockouts. He was in the ring with Ken Olivan. Ken Olivan was a middleweight champion. Seferino Garcia and Lou Bullard, Teddy Zuras, and Carl Olson, Eddie Babe Briscoe, Eddie Booker, Freddie Mills, and Charlie Burley, Jack Chase, and Holman Williams, Edgar Charles, Archie Moore, and Joey Maxim. Larry Temple was born 1882, weighed 145 to 165 pounds. He was in the ring with Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, Joe Walcott, and George Cole, Jamaica Kid, Jack Johnson, and Jeff Clark. Incredible. He faced Eddie Kennedy and Black Bill, George Corcoran, and Sam Langford, Jack Blackburn, and Dixie Kid. We look at Ezra Charles, who was born July 7th, 1921. Stood 6 foot and weighed 160 to 204 pounds. He was in the ring with Charlie Burley and Jimmy Bivens, Lloyd Marshall, and Archie Moore. In fact, he defeated Archie Moore 3 times. Jersey Joe Walcott fought him 3 times. Joe Louis fought him in 1950. Booker Beckworth and Anton Christophorus, who was a light heavyweight champion. Gus Lesnievich, Moses Brown, and Rocky Marciano twice in 1954. Burt Littell, they called him Chocolate Kid. He was a black murderer middleweight, stood 5 foot 9 inches. He was in the ring with Howard Johnson, who became the light heavyweight champion of the world. Charlie Doc Williams, outstanding fighter. Roy Williams and Oakland Billy Smith. Major Jones and Holman Williams, Coco Kid, and Charlie Burley. Harry Smith, his name was the Harlem Thunderbolt. October 28, 1907, Kingston, Jamaica is when he was born. He weighed 151 to 155 and went up as high as 175 pounds. He was a colored middleweight champion, 1929. He fought Gorilla Jones, Jack McVeigh, Jimmy Francis, and Homer Robinson. Paul Silver, he defeated Jack McVeigh for the colored middleweight championship belt. Now, as for Jack McVeigh, he was named the Pride of Harlem. He was 5 foot 9 inches. He was in the ring with Joe Dundee and Pete Latzo, Maxie Rosenblum and Harry Smith, Ace Hudson, and K.O. Kelly. When you look at fighters such as Kid Norfolk, who was a colored light heavyweight champion, he fought Alabama Kid. He was also in the ring with Lee Anderson. He was born September 20th, 1895. Stood 5 foot 8 inches, weighed 165 and 185 pounds. He was in the ring with Billy Misk and Harry Greb, Jeff Clark, Tiger Flowers, Lee Anderson, Big Bill Tate, Tom Coker, Jack Blackburn, Jamaica Kid, John Lester Johnson, Battling Siki, and Black Fitzsimmons. They called him Kid Monday. Harry Greb, Joe Jeanette, and Joe Clark, as well as Jeff Clark. Now, Bobby Dobbs stood 5 foot 8 inches. He weighed 125 to 136 pounds. He was in the ring with Frank Childs and Joe Gans, George Cole, Charlie Martin, and George K. Levine. Harry the Black Pearl Martin, Black Diamond Wilson, Charles Hadley, Black Frank Taylor. The colored middleweight champions. Harlem Thunderbolt, as I stated before, his name was Harry Smith. He defeated Jack McVeigh, Harlem, New York, 1929. You had Jack McVeigh. You had Larry Estridge and George Byers, Frank Craig, the Harlem Coffee Cooler, Sam Langford, Jamaica Kid, Charlie Burley, Eddie Palmer, Harris Martin, Panama Joe Gans, Holman Williams, Coco Kid, and Ed Binkley. Frank Craig, the Harlem Coffee Cooler, was defeated March 18, 1893 against Joe Butler in Philadelphia. After losing to Dan Creek on October 14, 1895 for the middleweight championship of England, Frank Craig had defeated George Cripps 24th November 1898, 13th round knockout. He had Holman Williams, faced Coco Kid 14 times, and he lost 9 times. Charlie Burley 7 times. They split victories 3-3 and 1 draw. Now, the colored welterweight champion was Charlie Burley, Oakland Billy Smith, and Holman Williams. Now, what was interesting about Charlie Burley, he was in the ring with Archie Moore and Oakland Billy Smith and Holman Williams. He fought some great fighters, and he would become the California light heavyweight champion when he defeated Oakland Billy Smith. You had Gorilla Jones, the fighting gorilla. Eddie Palmer, Herbert Lewis Hardwood, his name was the Coco Kid, had a fighting record of 244, 176 wins, 48 by the knockout route. He was in the ring with Holman Williams 14 times, defeating him 9 times. Charlie Burley, young Peter Jackson. As a matter of fact, he defeated young Peter Jackson for the colored welterweight championship belt. He was in the ring with Archie Moore twice, and Oakland Billy Smith. He had a controversy on November 24th, 1944 at the Civic Auditorium. Coco Kid was knocked down several times, and the Oakland Commission had fined him $500 because they felt as though Coco Kid had taken a dive. Young Peter Jackson had won the California State Lightweight Championship January 12, 1932. He defeated Young Manuel. Young Manuel was a very good fighter. He won a vacant Pacific Coast Lightweight Championship over Ong Wing Lee, July 25, 1933. He won the Mexican Lightweight Championship March 31st, 1935 from Young Manuel again. He fought for the Colored Welterweight Championship July 26, 1936 against Coco Kid at the Hen Park in New Orleans, Louisiana. For the new Colored Welterweight Championship belt, 2 rounds were scheduled for 10. August 22, 1938, lost the Colored Welterweight Championship belt to Charlie Burley at the Hickory Park in Millville, Pennsylvania. This is Coco Kid. And Charlie Burley had dropped Coco Kid 3 times, defeating him in 15 rounds. January 11, 1940, at the Coliseum in Baltimore, Maryland, defeated Holman Williams January 15, 1943, at the Victory Arena in New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, Eddie Palmer had a record of 45 wins, 23 knockouts, 21 by the knockout rule. Now, here's what's interesting with him. He was a color welterweight champion. He fought Tommy Coleman September 1912. In the 6th round, it was scheduled for 10. December 26, 1912, Eddie Palmer would become the colored welterweight champion of the world. December 9th, Kid Harris in the ring was killed. And what's interesting about that, when he killed Kid Harris with one single right hand, they were going to bring up charges on him, but they decided that they would cause problems with the commissioner's office, so they let that fight go. Fighting Gorilla, Eddie Palmer, had KO'd Willie Langford for the colored middleweight championship belt. Now, the colored heavyweight championship, very interesting. C.A.C. Smith, 1876. Morris Grant, 1878. Charles Hadley, January 14, 1881. George Godfrey, February 23, 1883. Peter Jackson, they called him the Black Prince, August 24, 1888. He was in a ring with Gentleman Jim Corbett, 61-round draw. And Peter Jackson was some fighter. He had defeated George Godfrey, Old Chocolate, for the colored heavyweight championship belt. Then he would lose to Bob Armstrong December 21st, 1896. But you had George Godfrey and Harry Wills and Sam McVeigh and Joe Jeanette, Kid Norfolk, Lee Anderson, Jack Thompson, Bearcat Wright, Jack Taylor, Big Bill Tate. You had Tut Jackson and young Peter Jackson, Jack Johnson. And here's the interesting with Sam Langford. The reason why I have him ranked number 1, the only fighter who has ever done this. He fought the first black lightweight champion, who was Joe Gans. He actually defeated him, but it wasn't for the title. He fought the first black welterweight champion, the Barbados Demon, Joe Walcott. Fought the first black middleweight champion, Tiger Flowers. Fought the first black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson. And he went the distance with Jack Johnson. No other fighter in boxing history has ever done that. Now you look at Joe Louis, who was the Brown Bomber, born May 13th, 1914. Stood 6 foot 1 inch, weighed 188 to 218 pounds. He was in the ring with Ezek Charles in 1950. Joe Walcott fought him twice, 47 and 48. Rocky Marciano, 1951. Billy Conn, 41 and 46. John Henry Lewis, 49. Jimmy Bivens. Unbelievable fighter was Joe Louis. When you look at Henry Armstrong, he was in the ring with Baby Aris Menzies 6 times. Albert Chalky Wright, who was a former featherweight champion. Bo Jack fought him in 1943. He was a lightweight champion, had wars with Ike Williams and Bob Montgomery. Henry Armstrong was in the ring with Ray Robinson in 1943. Same year he fought Bojack. Fritzy Zivik, who he lost his welterweight championship crown to in 1940 and 1941. Midget Wargas, Mike Belois, Benny Bass out of Philadelphia, Sefrino Garcia, and Barney Ross, Lou Ambers, Lou Jenkins, Sammy Engat, Willie Joyce. All these fighters that I just named were champions. You look at fighters such as Jeff Clark and Dave Holly, Jack Blackburn, Stanley Ketchel. Popular names. But in the case of Ray Robinson, he was in the ring with fighters such as Sammy Engat. Matter of fact, in 1941, he fought Sammy Engat. It was for the lightweight championship belt. Sammy Engat didn't make weight, so it became a non-title fight, and Ray Robinson would defeat Sammy Engat. Fought him 3 times, defeated him all 3 times. Was in the ring with Fritzy Zivik twice, Marty Servo, Jake LaMotta 6 times, Izzy Janazzo, Henry Armstrong, Tommy Bell, 1946, defeated him for the welterweight championship belt. Kid Gavilan fought him twice. The fight in Philadelphia was a doozy. Steve Belois and Carl Bobo Olsen. Randy Turpin, 1951, he won and lost his title to Randy Turpin. Rocky Graziano and Joey Maxim. Carmen Basilio, Gene Foreman, Paul Pender, Joey Giardello, Terry Downs. These are all champions. Archie Moore, December 13th, 1916, Beloit, Mississippi. He was in the ring with Howard King 6 times, Jack Chase 6 times, Harold Johnson 5 times, and Ezra Charles 3 times. Charlie Burley twice, and Oakland Billy Smith 4 times. Eddie Booker 3 times, Joey Maxim 3 times. Rocky Marciano, Jimmy Bivens, Burt Littell, Eddie Cotton, Alabama Kid, and Coco Kid. Jack Buddy Davis. He was in the ring with Nino Valdez and Carl Bobo Olsen, Yvonne Durrell twice, Jimmy Slade, Bob Baker, Joey Maxim, and Arthur King, Lloyd Marshall, and Yolande Pompey. Dick Tiger, who was an outstanding middleweight champion and light heavyweight champion, was born August 14, 1929 in Nigeria. Stood 5 foot 8 inches and weighed 156 to 168 pounds. He had a WBA and WBC middleweight championship, WBA, WBC light heavyweight championship, and a British middleweight championship. Was in the ring with Ruben Hurricane Carter, Emil Griffith, Joey Giardello, and Jose Torres, Bob Foster, Nino Benvenuti, Gene Former, and Joey Archer. Look at Muhammad Ali. Ali was in the ring with Joe Frazier 3 times, Ken Norton a few times, Larry Holmes and Cleveland Williams, Zora Foley and Archie Moore, Floyd Patterson twice, Leon Spinks and Jimmy Ellis twice, Sonny Liston twice, Bob Foster, George Foreman, Doug Jones, Buster Mathis. Unbelievable fighter was Muhammad Ali. Sugar Ray Leonard faced Wilfred Benitez, 1979, for the welterweight championship belt, WBC version. Was in the ring with Thomas Hearns, 1982, for the WBA version. Marvin Hagler, 1987. Roberto Duran, fought him twice. Hector Camacho, Bruce Curry. Unbelievable fighter was Sugar Ray Leonard. Floyd Mayweather, from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Had a fighting record of 15-0 with 27 knockouts. Stood 5 foot 8 inches and had a 72-inch reach. October 11, 1996. This man fought Jesus Chavez, Giorgio Hernandez, Jose Luis Castillo twice, Diego Corrales, and Shane Mosley. He was in the ring with Oscar De La Hoya and Juan Manuel Marquez, Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao and Zab Judah, Demetrius Corley, as well as Canelo Alvarez. Robert Guerrero, Arturo Gatti, Marcos Madonna. Good fighters. This man was in the ring. I'm going to take a water drink. Larry Holmes. He was called the Eastern Assassin. He was in the ring with Bone Crusher Smith and Kid Norton, Muhammad Ali and Jerry Cooney, Mike Weavers and Tim Witherspoon, Oliver McCall, Michael Spinks twice, Leon Spinks, and Iron Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson won a heavyweight championship belt, WBC version, from Trevor Berbick. He was in the ring with former light heavyweight champion Alfonso Ratliff. Michael Spinks, who was the holder of the IBF heavyweight championship belt, and he was stripped when he fought Jerry Cooney. Tyson was also in the ring with Buster Douglas, who he lost his unified title to. He was in the ring with Lennox Lewis and Tony Tubbs, Evander Holyfield twice, Frank Bruno twice, Bruce Seldon and Pinklin Thomas, as well as Tony Tucker. Tucker he took the IBF heavyweight championship belt from. Bernard the Executioner Hopkins was in the ring with Simon Brown and Ronald Winky Wright, Roy Jones twice, Antonio Tarver, Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad, Kelly Pavick, and Joe Calzaghe, I had to take a water break. Bruce Seldon. We look at Bernard Hopkins. He was some fighter. He really was. He's very underrated. I'm one of the greatest fighters of all times. Roy Jones was in the ring with Montel Griffin and Glenn Johnson, Clinton Woods, and Lou DeVal, Bernard Hopkins, and John Ruiz, who he won a heavyweight championship belt from, Mike McCallum, the body snatcher, Antonio Tarver, Felix Trinidad. He had fighters such as Donald Curry and Lloyd Hunnigan, Thomas the Hitman Hearns, Roberto Duran, Salvador Sanchez, Bazooka Lamone, and Bobby Chacon. When I think of lightweights, I think of Bob Montgomery, February 10th, 1919, 5'8", weighed 133 to 143 pounds. He was in the ring with Lou Jenkins, Sammy Hagar, Fizzy Zivic, and Petey Scalzo, Bo Jack and Luther Slugger White, Ike Williams, and Al Bummy Davis. Jimmy Carter, 1951 and 1952. He was some fighter. December 15th, 1923, South Carolina. He would wind up in New York. He was in the ring with Patty DeMarco and Art Aragon. Art Aragon was the original Golden Boy out of California. Carter was also in the ring with Don Jordan and Tommy Collins. Knocked him down 8 times. Decided to make the 3 knockdown rule. Luther Slugger White and Carlos Chavez, Enrique Bolanos and Wallace Bud Smith, Percy Bassett and Del Flanagan, Glenn Flanagan, his brother, Phil Burden, Sandy Sadler, Ad Oregon, and Laura Solis, Patty DeMarco and Wallace Bud Smith, Charlie Riley, Glenn Flanagan, Don Jordan. Ike Williams fought out of Trenton, New Jersey. He was in the ring with Carmen Basilio. 1947 to 1951, he was reigning as lightweight champion. August 2nd, 1923, when he was born. He stood 5'9" and weighed 128 to 155 pounds. He was in the ring with Juan Zarita, who he took the lightweight championship from. Kid Gavilan and Bo Jack, Johnny Bratton and Tippy Larkin, Luther Slugger White, John L. Davis, Bobby Ruffin, Enrique Bolanos 3 times, Bobby Ruffin, Gene Burton, Tippy Larkin, Joe Maselli and Fritzy Putin, Cleo Shane and Rudy Cruz, Johnny Bratton and Freddie Dawson, Bobby Ruffin, Fritzy Putin. These men were great fighters. Gil Turner, October 9th, 1950, Philadelphia. Was in the ring with Johnny Saxton and Gene Foreman, Izzy Logart and Joe Maselli, Charlie Smith, Charlie Scott, Ike Williams, Bo Jack, Charlie Fusari and Al Andrews. He was in the ring with Kid Gavilan for the welterweight championship of the world. As for Kid Gavilan, stood 5'10", weighed 121 or 156 pounds. He was in the ring with Patty Young, Ray Robinson twice, Joe Maselli and Tony Gennaro, Caspar Ortega and Chico Vijar, Fritzy Putin, Ralph Tiger Jones, Billy Graham, Bo Jack, Ernie Durando, Eduardo Lassie, Ralph Zanelli and Chuck Davey, Gil Turner, Johnny Bratton, Bobby Dykes out of Texas, Tony Gennaro, Carmen Basilio, Carl Bobo Olsen, Johnny Saxton, Chico Vijar, Caspar Ortega, and Vincent Martinez, as well as Del Flanagan. Emil Griffith was in the ring with Alan Minter, Jose Napoles, Vito Anafirmo, and Benny Briscoe. 1961 and 1966 was his reign. 23 World Championship belts. Was in the ring with Gypsy Joe Harris and Ralph Dupas, Ernie Lopez, Yama Bahama, Luis Rodriguez, Denny Moyer, Isaac Logart, and Stanley Kitten Haywood. Dick Tiger and Benny Kid Perrette 3 times. Ruben Hurricane Carter, Don Former. As a matter of fact, Don Former is where he won the Junior Middleweight Championship. Nino Benvenuti. What fighters Emil Griffin was in the ring with. Boxing has a rich history. The most knockdowns was Battling Nelson and Charlie Williams, 49. Joe Jeanette and Sam McVeigh, 38, 1939 in Paris, France. What a fight that was. Mexican Joe Rivers and Danny Webster, 27. The longest title reign as a heavyweight was Joe Louis, 25 title defenses. He reigned from 11 years and 8 months, just about 12-year reign. Lightweight was 7 years and 7 months, Benny Leonard. Middleweight was 5 years and 5 months, Tony Zale. But that's false because Tony Zale, the title was frozen for most of his career as a heavyweight champion. Lamar Clarks had the most knockouts, 43. September 14th, 1923. Jack Dempsey was in a ring with Louis Angel Firpo. He had 2 knockdowns and Firpo had 7. Total of 9 knockdowns. The most first-round knockouts in boxing history. I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to boxing. I just went on a rant. At the top of my head, no papers in front of me, I never have one. But that's the passion that I have from the game of boxing. And as you can look at the names that I have mentioned, you can see the difference in quality of fighters. So when you look today, you got to question yourself. Am I getting the best that boxing has to offer? If not, you have to demand it. I can sit back with the brothers at the 3 wise men table, and we can talk about old fights, and we feel it when we're talking about it because we witnessed the majority of those fights. A lot of the fighters that I have mentioned to you, I have met personally, either in nursing homes and dinners, hall